Nessa, how are you doing?
Good morning, Johnny, and I'm happy to be here, except to say that I'm not too well.
But you look well.
Yes, I may look well physically, but I feel very naked being a Ghanaian.
How?
It appears to me that in this country, we don't have consciences again.
Really?
That everything should be about politics. That everything should be about election. That the many young people of this country cannot look at this country and say that there is hope for me because I want to, or I chose to be a sociologist, a lawyer, a medical doctor. Johnny, yesterday I had to support a medical doctor, a practicing medical doctor, with an amount because the family was in dire need.
Why? Has the doctor not been paid?
Johnny, the doctor has been paid, but the salary cannot take him home. And in the midst of all these, I couldn't be a medical doctor because I think science is very difficult. So when someone sacrifices and goes through that and has not even made a decision to leave the country and has to, in the most embarrassing manner, ask for support, and then we are having to wake up in the morning to discuss 60% of SNIT shares in 6 hotels, to be sold to a cabinet minister. And we are having to discuss dialysis. Sometimes when I listen to you in the morning, I don't know whether I should say that I'm getting depressed or whether things would ever get well for us. And it can really feel naked in a country like that. I remember in many of the international trainings I have personally been involved in, one of the things they teach young people is to have a personal development plan where you tip that you want to finish school at this age, you want to get a job, maybe work for 2 years and start a master's program, and then after 2 years, maybe you want to get married, at which point you believe that your master's degree should give you a higher qualification. I see that consistently. You are even on a certain campaign to get a certain old man who is old to live, so that people who have it feels very naked. And yes, every country may have their own challenges and peculiar problems that we think we have to talk about. But what baffles me is that there seems to be no solution from the current government.
They tell us that our economy is rebounding and that we are turning the corner. You haven't heard that?
No, they've turned the corner with their account. If you're a sanitation minister and you have in excess of $4 million under your bed and your helps even steal 1 million over a space of 1 year, and you don't even notice it until you catch them in the act. How else would you understand the plight of many young people if they say that they cannot afford 3 square meals? If you are a minister of state and you are seeking to acquire some of the most prized assets of pensioners, what beats me is that SNIT is not just a government organization. It's a fund that many people are contributing through their sweat and toil, so that these funds are to be invested in income generating activities. And you have a minister who says that, I have the biggest hotel in Ghana and I want to acquire these ones at a time when not all these hotels are not making profit. The last time I went to Labadi Beach to meet someone, there I was accosted by 2 of their senior management trying to tell us that we make profit.
Really?
In Labad, and I wish government to come out to debunk this assertion and bring us the data.
That Labadi is broke.
Yes, we are making profit. They said just last year they gave government over 23 million from their conferencing alone. So this is not a hotel that is not making losses. Today, we are having this discussion at a time when people are dying because of haircuts. Because government has placed a moratorium on their pension benefit. Yesterday, right before I walked into a program that I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to talk about, I saw a certain woman I've been speaking to on phone, but I never knew her. So she said, "Oh, this is me." And she was in black. And I didn't ask because we wear black a lot as lawyers. Then she said, my elder brother just died because of the pension fund and the bond, because he was expecting the money. You know, the elder brother's money was taken over. The first one in GN Bank.
Right.
He survived the shock. Then he invested again in government bond. The time they gave him, they frustrated him consistently. He couldn't afford his drugs. And so when he had the attack, he just passed
There
on.
was no help at the time.
There was no help. So this is the state of our country, where even people and the president's classmates, schoolmates, even juniors who are between 60 to 90 years and they are still living, cannot afford to have access to their own contribution. Recently, we are told that SNIT may not be able to meet their payment obligation. They came out to say, "Oh, it's not true.
Right.
We are so liquid." And here we are selling the assets to a certain minister of state, not just a Ghanaian who is a private person, who we will say that, "Oh, let's all champion the Ghana agenda and make sure we create businessmen." And I keep
But SNIT has
asking,
come to respond that we went through the tender process. So there's nothing untoward that is being done.
didn't
presently.
the government say that they went through the tender process for the Sputnik V purchase?
That's correct.
So it is not just, you see, certain things may not be illegal, but they are very unethical. That is why when you're a leader, we expect you to have conscience. That is why even the Bible says that everything may be expedient, but not all things are beneficial. You know, so you cannot just hide under the laws. For once upon a time, Idi Amin was killing his own citizens and killing the Jews because the law says so. So that may be legal. This government has one of the things they have issues with, and why they believe they are the fathers of rule of law, is a certain decision we call the Riakoto. There was nothing illegal about it. But why do they even celebrate JB Dankwa till now about that? So they should stop talking to us that way when our prized assets are being taken away.
The government consistently has insisted that, look, if you had been in power, things would have been worse. For example, Dennis Abuaji, who leads communication for Dr. Baumia's campaign, says that if you had been in power, by now would be buying a dollar for 20 Ghana cedis.
I think that the government is, you know, there are stages of recovering from shock. I think this government is at the stage of self-denial.
After 7 years in power?
I think that there is something fundamentally wrong with those in government, because you see, we've seen an MPP government, which was the Kufuor government before, and never did you see this level of arrogance, greed, recklessness, and insensitivity when we are talking about the plight of people. The NDC has had the benefit of being in power before. I hear people say that the CD was 1 CD in 2009. It was not. It was 1 CD, 26 pesos. I checked yesterday. I cross-checked again with the data from BOG. And so in 8 years, the NDC added 3 CDs. In 8 years, do the average calculation. And even that, the NDC acknowledged that it could be better. And at the time, what were we seeing? The public debt was moved from 9 million to 120. And out of this 120 billion, Johnny, when the president's driver and convoy had an accident, their savior was the UGMC,
right?
the University of Ghana Medical Center. That facility was built by the NDC, and it's part of the 120 billion debt we are talking about. Rich Hospital, just right behind you. That facility was built through with this money. I can go on, the BOG Hospital, the Maritime Hospital, the Bogatanga Hospital, so many, the Dodowa Hospital, Abetifi, Sewa, the Afari, so many Fomena Hospital. I mean, when it comes to hospital, when you are mentioning it, you need to take water.
Hey.
Yes, because President John Mahama had the vision to build a 6,000 bed hospital to end the no bed syndrome. And so even with this, Johnny, we've been going around the 16 regions.
Right.
Many people wish today open the phone lines and call the people in Abasokai. If they wouldn't wish that the dollar was 4 cedi, to the cedi. If they wouldn't wish that they were still buying a ball of kinky for 1 cedi instead of 5 cedis. If they wouldn't wish that they were paying chotro or buying pure water 20 pesos instead of 50 pesos. So people are wishing and saying that, hey, the NDC, which you said was bad, we've lived under them. But you know why?
No.
At the time the NDC was building all these monumental hospitals, you remember that Dr. Baumia Nanado was everywhere saying that the cost of the projects were inflated.
Right.
And then given the opportunity, I vividly recall Dr. Baumia saying that they will build a Dubai medical city. And so it is like you being in the marriage and somebody saying that, hey, I will give you a better life. So the hope of a better life compared to the good life you were living was what Ghanaians, looked at.
And you say we have not gotten that?
Today, our lives are worse off. The World Bank is telling us that over 850 million people, 50,000 people have been pushed down the poverty line. It doesn't mean that you have 850,000 people poor now. It means that in addition to the poor people we had, this government have pushed down almost 1 million people. Unemployment has doubled from 8% to 14.7%, with youth unemployment at 30%. We are sitting on a time bomb. We are at a crossroad. Our country, and you see, in all these, you remember the Doomsaw issue under President Mahama.
Right.
The discussion on the airwaves was we were negotiating the purchase of power plants. The government and cabinet were in a meeting trying to get investors to come. We acknowledged the issue while we were solving it behind the scene. We were giving the people timetables so they will plan. That is how governance looked like. It's a serious business. When you are faced with a challenge while in power, you take the steps to solve it so that the people can have hope and wait. And so you remember at the time, Kwabena Donko, the Minister of Power then, gave a deadline. When he couldn't meet the deadline, he resigned on principle so that another person will come and continue. That is what you must have. That is how governance must be. As we speak, there is no single policy that this government is putting in place to arrest the depreciation of the currency.
You don't see the industrialization that the government said they are doing. You don't see one district, one factory, one village, one dam planting for food and jobs. You don't see all those ones. You don't see the loans to NBSSI or GEA loans to small scale industry. You don't see all those ones.
Let me take it one.
You don't see YEA, NEIP. What are you talking about, Beatrice?
Please,
really?
Let me take it one at a time.
Really? Okay.
The one village, one dam. The minister in charge, the minister for special initiative, then Hawa Kumsin,
right,
said that what meaningful dam do you expect her to build? She herself said it. Johnny, who are you to say that they've built a dam? We have been to the north, all the 5 regions of the north, and I can hit my chest and tell you that there is no single functional dam. And I challenge any government official to come out with pictures and videos and location. I'm happy to go there and show Ghanaians. Recently, while I was on the sister station, one of their communicators said, oh, they have built a school in Larabanga. I went to Larabanga, and this government has not constructed schools. The tool of the NPP is that they just have to deceive the people. So when it comes to the dam, the functional dams in the north were constructed by either Jerry John Rawlings or President Mills or President Mahama. It has to be the NDC tradition. If you look at the functional dam, even in times of, dry season, the dam at Sandema, the Tamni Dam, these were the dams which were constructed by the NDC. You should go and see the Tamni Dam. It's about the biggest man-made dam in the north to have been made for the people. The NDC was almost 80% complete. This government has neglected them.
So
paid in excess of $12 million for the Pualugu Dam. Today, the vice president shamefully went to his own kinsmen and told them that, we will complete something that he said in 2020 he had completed. So you are talking,
even though we have not been able to do it, I assure you we will do it.
But how can you do something that you have already done? You say that you've done the thing. When he was asked on Asempa that what is one signature project you've done for the people of the north, he said is the Pualugu Dam. We have done the Pualugu Dam, only to go there and say we will complete. So it tells you that even the people leading the MPP, they are not truthful. If you Google Dr. Bawumia right now, it is about lies. So if the head is a liar, as for the followers, what should we say?
The MPP say they are giving you headache. That's why you keep talking about them, Dr. Bawumia. You can't take a rest. Is that the case?
Actually, they are giving us headache. Because they are giving us headache by giving every politician a bad name. Today, people think that politicians are not people of conscience because the benchmark is the MPP. Today, people think that politicians do not have the well-being of the people at heart because the benchmark is... So if you're a politician, that should give you a headache. They are giving us headache if you look at the level of mismanagement, the level of hardship, the excruciating levels. I remember recently I went to the market and for everything I touched, tomatoes, 4 pieces of tomatoes, 20 cedis.
Which market?
The market at 25, community 25, Tema. Then when I asked, the woman said, "Why are you not a Ghanaian?"
But we have Planting for Food and Jobs. So how did you buy 4 pieces of...
But the Planting for Food and Jobs, the man himself has told you that horses or donkeys carry the fertilizers for the Planting for Food and Jobs away. So what are you talking about? You see, Johnny, let's not... And I think that you, the media, can do a better job.
What else do you want us to do?
You must hold people to higher standards. You must critically examine the propositions of people and the policies of people. The MPP has a certain strategy. However it is, let's just throw in the thing with a slogan. Let's get people discussing it. Half of the people are not farmers. So they will not know whether the Planting for Food and Jobs have failed. So while we lie to the people that we are investing in Planting for Food and Jobs, there are other people who are not farmers who vote for us. When it comes to farmers, let's tell them that we are building Agenda 111, even though we haven't done anything for them. So they keep bundling things around. And you see, the data they themselves are churning out is telling you that there is no policy of the NPP that has achieved the intended effect.
Have you not seen the performance tracker?
Where is
and
it?
the achievements
Please,
of the
can you Google
performance
that performance tracker? It doesn't work again, no.
It doesn't?
I've been looking for it.
Oh, how? But you can't say that.
Please, let's Google it. If you have time. I can't find it again because...
Helen,
yes, please
check
look
it.
for
because
it.
I'll have a look.
I don't like what you're doing. How do you suggest that the performance tracker
that performance tracker?
I think it's down for maintenance.
Oh, it is down for maintenance.
Let's have a look. Bear with me.
It is not just down for maintenance. You know what happened?
No, please.
When they launched the performance tracker, I and my team took it upon ourselves that we are going to subject it to scrutiny.
Okay.
The moment we raise the issues and the lies, then they delete them. The moment, why have they not printed it? Why is it online? So that when you raise the concern, they will just delete it.
It says the sites cannot be retrieved.
So now you see, I've been looking for it for days.
I'm not sure if it's an internet problem from here.
It is not an internet problem. You just want to hold.
Okay.
What does
performancetracker.gov.gh. It is working. At least from where I can see on my phone. there are some stats that have been put up on the performance tracker. So initially, it was giving me a bit of a hard time to access, but
Right.
the performance
But now
tracker,
you have it. It's up.
It's up. Performance tracker.
Now, how many projects do they have on?
Okay, so there's a breakdown now. Talks about electricity access rate, 88.75.
The overall, I'm sure she's asking of the
Of the
overall.
overall, that isn't on the homepage.
Initially, they
It
put
used to be
about
there.
some 13,000.
Yeah, 13,000, yeah.
I
And
don't
then
think-
they kept reducing it. But you see that, look at what the government is doing. They are saying that electricity coverage is about 80 something. If you look at the data from the Energy Commission, this government has done less than 5% of electricity coverage, while the NDC did in excess of 22%.
So here, the performance tracker says electricity access rate percentage, 5.51% increased compared to 2016, 88.87% of electricity access rate as of 2022, sources the Ministry of Energy.
See-
You say this is not correct?
See, this data is very misleading. Where did they meet it? Where did they meet it? The NDC moved electricity coverage from this country from 60% to 82%. Let me give you some regions.
Okay.
In Esunafo North, Esutifi, especially in the Bono regions
Right.
and in the northern regions, where the NDC expanded electricity to. That is where it ended. This government has not added on. So when it comes to even achievements in the energy sector, this government is just, that's why they put the round figure. Why didn't they add from where they took it from?
So we can do a comparative analysis.
Johnny, go and visit. There are communities in Ashanti region. The stronghold of the MPP, today as we speak, 2024, they do not have access to electricity. Where the NDC ended electricity expansion, because you know why? The NDC sees electricity expansion as a social good, as a social intervention. And so we expand electricity to the remotest communities so that people can have access to some form of economic empowerment. The MPP looks at the cost, because they say they are a property owning democracy.
They say
So if
you
it
give
doesn't-
us excess power that we did not need.
you know that argument is flawed.
By who?
By they themselves. Today we are in Doomso. Where is the excess capacity?
All we have is Doomsies, it's not Doomso.
So Johnny, you are part of the people who
I'm
believe
not.
in the
No, but
deception.
I'm just telling you what my government has
You
told
see,
me.
you want to ask for Napo, the least said about him, the better. Napo has shown that, he even when he was poor, he was very arrogant. So now that he's a minister, you can see that his arrogance pro max.
Hey.
The man does not know how to speak. He does not understand energy. He does not have an appreciation of how the industry works. Recently, when we met the IPP, their concerns were that the people in charge of power do not understand power. Napo doesn't understand energy. If you can bring Napo here for a debate, he cannot. When was the last time you heard him grant any meaningful interview on the sector? The last time they sought to approach him on the issue of the doom, so he said that bring your own timetable. We are sitting on a timeline where in the area of health, energy, agriculture, employment, economy, everything is going down the drain. Nanado himself admitted that our country is in a state that for 40 years we haven't been there. Our lives are worse off than it was for our grandparents 40 years ago. So if today your grandparents was not able to buy a land and build a house, you can understand that we are being told that our lives are worse off.
I see.
So it is important that we leave the discussion between, or we don't make it an NDC MPP discussion.
Okay.
Because you see, hardship does not discriminate. Fuel that I used to buy for 600, now I buy for 1,000 cedis in a space of, we are in May,
Right.
so even less than 5 months. So when I get to the fuel pump, nobody will ask me, Beatrice, are you NDC or MPP? I just say I'm buying fuel. When I went to buy the tomatoes and I was talking about, they didn't
4
ask
pieces
me.
for 20
yes,
cedis.
for 20 cedis. They didn't ask me whether you are MPP or you are NDC. Today, the many people who cannot find jobs, walking around, they haven't written on their forehead whether they are MPP, NDC.
Right.
So when we are talking about hardship, it is important that we don't politicize it. The government is failing. And there is no, you see, in the past, in Kufuor's time, you could see that Kufuor was doing something. You may not agree with his approach, but then you had to wait for the outcome.
Right.
President Mill and Kufuor, he quickly took us to HIPIC. We didn't agree with it, but you could see that he acknowledged
that there was
a
wrong.
problem, and I needed to do something.
You don't see that
to
now?
solve. Johnny, what is it? See, we are not paying our external debt too. And when we say we are not paying our external debt, it's not big English. It means that the monies or the dollars which government would have carried every month to give to the foreigners for the monies that Nanado and the cousin borrowed, we are not paying. So the dollar is with us here. Now, IMF, the first tranche also came. So it means that for our payments or external payments, we have some forex to help us.
Okay.
And we say that the exchange rate is because of the forces of demand and supply. So it means that there is no huge demand to go and pay external debt, except dollar for trading and maybe traveling, which if you look at it, although significant, with the subtraction of the debt, should be manageable. But we are having to experience a rate of depreciation at a rate that we haven't seen
So
before.
we're piling our debt and that's affecting our currency.
No, we are piling our debt, and that was supposed to strengthen our currency,
Right.
because we are not exporting dollar to
But
pay.
it's not doing
but
that.
it's not doing it. So it
why
tells
is
you
that?
it tells you that the economy is an ICU. It tells you that all is not well, and government is covering up with PR. They have employed in excess of 1,000 people to be sitting at home and to be on social media to be saying that, oh, all things are going well. Oh, I just went here and things are going well. Government is investing in PRs. They are intimidating journalists not to ask the critical question so that you and I would not, the discussion will not be that there is hardship.
I see. Helen, what did you want to
just
ask?
a quick one, picking Beatrice's thoughts on this one. And we know that globally the situation is difficult. Ghana is not exempt from some of these hardships. And I think that for most of us, we can admit that that is something that is also affecting Ghana. What percentage of our woes, of Ghana's woes, will you attribute to the global strife? And what percentage will you attribute to what others are calling the canker of mismanagement, a lack of creativity, and so on and so forth?
90% mismanagement.
From the local front?
Yes.
10%
10% external.
How did you arrive at this
why?
percentage here?
I keep saying that much as COVID brought us a health pandemic, and we thank God for the hospitals President John Mahama built, COVID was our blessing. You see, the issue of COVID can be akin to you losing a caretaker, an uncle who takes care of you and who was not rich. And then when that uncle died, a rich person adopted you. So started giving you cars. You started living in very luxurious areas and that. So your uncle's death may be a pain, but it was also your blessing. And that is the situation of COVID. But for COVID, we would not have had access to 21 billion cedis. How much are we going to the IMF for now that there is no COVID? It's 3 billion. And the government is telling us that with that 3 billion, all our economic problems will be solved. In fact, they estimated to get just 6 billion cedis from the e-levy. And with that, they were telling us that, they didn't need to toll our roads again. Unemployment to be a thing of the past. They were going to invest it in infrastructure. So using the government's own figures and mathematics, you can see that if you got 21 billion cedis from COVID, then it tells you that COVID was your blessing. And even with the COVID expenditure, which is so bloated, the government admitted that they spent just about 8 billion or so on the COVID expenditure, which means that the difference were all bonuses to government. And so if you were investing, if you were doing the right things and you were not sharing COVID money, we shouldn't be here. Look at the Auditor General's report on the COVID-19 expenditure. It tells you that they wasted the opportunity. What the people were giving you the money for was for you to help in building your shops. Let me show you.
Tell us.
President Mahama, throughout the time he was in power, had just an excess of 200 billion by way of loans, the oil revenue, grants, and all other ancillary receipts in government. Look at the development he did. This government, if you add this year, will be getting in excess of 1 trillion.
You don't see anything.
So I want you to imagine the mathematics.
The weight,
1 trillion cedis.
The weight.
Yes, 1 trillion. So
the weight of resources that we're giving.
Your opponent had 200 billion. He has 2 regional teaching hospitals. The Tamale Phase 2, the UGMC. He has regional hospitals. He has district hospitals. When it comes to secondary schools, he was on a mission of building 200 secondary schools with 46 completed. You get it. When it comes to employment, if you look at the various interventions that were created, unemployment was 8%. You have 1 trillion. And as we have this discussion, in the midst of a health pandemic, we do not have a single hospital completed out of the 1 trillion.
The infectious disease center is there.
Is that a hospital? That center is just a building. I had the benefit of reviewing the act for one of our MPs before it was promulgated. It's got nothing to do with government investing fund and doing whatever it is. We haven't seen it. Nuguchi was doing the same job because they wanted to give it to the president friend, Frontiers Health, at the airport. We saw the canker. So we are living with a group of people who, under the guise of a property-owning democracy, are just running a procurement economy. You see, I wouldn't have an issue if the debate between the NDC and the MPP is that we built UGMC and we have also built this. Then the discussion will be that maybe ours was 612 bed and yours is maybe 400, so we've done better. And that is how I wanted the discussion to be, because when you go to the hospital, nobody will ask you for a party color. So if party A builds, party B builds, we have hospitals.
But you say there's nothing to compare with.
It is always something to zero. And that should be worrying given the quantum. So the government, they just sit down to formulate theories. Let's blame the COVID-19. You realize that even before they could finish blaming the COVID-19, the Russia-Ukraine came. COVID-19 was our blessing.
So the MPP sounded pretty much this way, maybe much more exaggerated in opposition. And then they added a cap of corruption to it that, look, nearly everybody in your government at the time was corrupt. With the benefit of power and just with a few months to go, I can't say that I've seen any major prosecution happen or prosecutions happening for corruption or on the line of corruption. Are you able to share with me what your plan? Because you pretty much are sounding like them, and I'm thinking, is the NDC also going to come into power?
No, I don't take that as a compliment at all.
And then look on and say that, oh, okay, then
no.
Business as usual. Are you going to prosecute people?
There can be no peace without justice. And even for us in the public space, there must be standards. There must be a limit to which you are allowed to engage in some unethical behavior. The NDC owes it as a duty to the people of Ghana to retrieve all stolen funds. See, in Kufuor's time, some of the scandals that you could find was that a minister had bought a V8. Is that the minister has, or somebody is probably looking well, somebody has a swimming pool in their house.
Right.
In President Mills's time, they will say President Mahama has printed diaries or Buzz Brandon 3 million, even that you are made to refund the money. They joke about even they are confirmed, which was even not the story. But never in the history of our country have we seen a deliberate and calculated attempt by a group of people competing with greed for the state resources in the manner in which you have done. We are experiencing. Never have we seen a group of people who are so oblivious of the happenings around them, and all they think about is money, and nothing more. And so we even owe it a duty to the people of Ghana and to ourselves that we must have scapegoats. We must set standards for everybody to know that coming to politics is not the means and the easier means to enrich yourself.
President Akufo-Addo said that.
No, you see, President Akufo-Addo has a very short memory. He doesn't remember the things he says.
Oh no, I don't think that.
Oh, he doesn't really remember.
He said that. He said, look, if you want to be part of my government, don't think of enriching yourself.
Private.
Yes. You
go
know,
into the
part of the
sector.
President's speech is plagiarized. Half of the time, the speech has been written.
No, that part was not plagiarized.
No, half of the time, the speech has been written for him.
Okay.
He doesn't have the benefit of reflection, so he gets there and he reads it.
Just like that.
Oh, just like that. And there have been several times.
How did you come by this information?
Oh, should I give you examples?
Yes.
Okay, so the first example was that in the State of the Nation's address, when he said that Dr. Bawumia was the one who was in charge of the economy,
Right.
he's so happy about the economy. In previous years, from 2017 till now, then when it came to 2024, he said, oh, I take full responsibility. It's no longer Dr. Bawumia. A person who is convicted and has convictions about the things he says will be very consistent, because that's the thing about conviction.
Right.
You remember he says, oh, we will develop Ghana. And then the Aflao chief says that my schools have been abandoned. Will you complete it for me? He says, go and complete it yourself. He goes to say that irrespective of who you are, the MPP will care for you. Then the Kumfi people come and he says that because you didn't vote for your MP, I can't develop it. You think this is somebody who says the things he says, out of conviction. So let's not compare these things. But what we are saying is that, you see, politicians are even at risk.
Of what?
We are at risk of... We are endangered species now. Everybody thinks that every politician is as greedy as the people in power now. Everybody thinks that every politician wants to come into power for state capture. Everybody thinks that, oh, this person is doing this because of what they expect to get. But it's not the case for everybody. And so it is important that consistently we make a distinction between the NDC and the MPP. Under the NDC, if you engage in a corrupt act, even if you dream, and President Mahama hears it, or even President Mills, even President Rawlings, we know of stories of President Rawlings asking even his appointees about wristwatches and how they were able to afford it. President Mahama will either ask you to resign or prosecute you even though you were his party member. That shows a political will. And when that happens, Johnny, everybody sits up and the conversation changes.
But is that not why the OSP's office was set up by Nanado? Martin Amido first and now...
what has the OSP office done? So as it was set up?
Oh, the OSP recently has saved us some money over some
3 million
almost 3 million cities in ghost names.
Oh, but Beatrice, are you saying that you haven't seen that the OSP has advanced some of the conversations?
What I have seen is President Mahama President Nanado fulfilling a manifesto promise. You know why?
Tell me.
You don't set up an office like the OSP to fight corruption and corruption-related offenses. And when your minister is found to have so much money under her bed, you write what would appear to be a love letter, my dear Cecilia, and say that at the end of the investigation, I'm very confident that your integrity will be intact. The OSP is an appointee of the president. He has told you, the OSP himself is telling you that, loom, we are doomed as a nation. From what that office he is seeing, it is not well with us as a people. You want me to challenge the OSP?
Is the OSP not being a crybaby?
Which crybaby? He's not the first OSP. The first OSP described the president as the mother serpent of corruption. Is that also a crybaby? Then maybe the OSP is just for people who cry. And so it is not to fight corruption. We said that everything the OSP was doing, you have other organizations doing it.
Other organizations like what?
Yoko.
But the Yoko is supposed to investigate.
So the solution,
Yoko says I can't find
the solution is not in creating offices, but making sure that the existing offices work.
But the independence of the OSP was guaranteed, wasn't it?
The independence of every state institutions have always been guaranteed on paper, isn't it? Isn't the Electoral Commissioner and the Electoral Commission guaranteed where party communicators are being given appointments, that nothing happened and pricks our conscience, that everything is not well because there is an independence guarantee on paper? Johnny, you see, we may not appreciate the damage that is being done to us as a people. Consistently, if you live, you see why people think that it is normal to throw papers and rubbish on the streets? Because consistently, we have created an impression that there is nothing wrong.
You say this is conditioning.
It is conditioning. And so gradually, the government is conditioning us to think that it is okay that the laws should say something. It is okay that we should have things written. Conscience should not matter.
But so you don't think
ethics should not matter.
So you don't think that the OSP, for the full length of its span in office, at least as the Akufo-Addo's government is still in power, will be able to prosecute anybody, for any major corrupt activity?
Who has the OSP able to prosecute?
They said they are in
even
court.
Martin Amidu couldn't survive.
Martin Amidu said he didn't have the requisite resources. Kisi Jabin has been giving some resources, some more staff, some more vehicles. Martin Amidu is not happy about it. But then Kisi says he's in court.
Kisi Jaben is the person who has told you that we are creating a situation that very soon a murderer will walk to court for an injunction.
But was it not? Kisi Jabin is Anas Aremeya, Anas's lawyer. They use the Anas principle. That which Nanado said, when I come to power, I used to fight corruption. So how would you say a thing like that when Nanado says, I will use the Anas principle? The man who was lawyer for the one using the Anas principle, and you say you are doubtful?
The man who says, I'll use the Anas principle is the man under whose tenure a team member of Anas was killed. And as we speak today, and this one, I bow my head in shame when I speak about this to the media. It is just a matter of time. It's Ahmed Swale. Right. It will happen to another person. Because I'm telling you, the government is deliberately conditioning people that it is normal for one journalist to be killed because they sought to be critical, and nothing will happen. So you, the second person, you can get your next victim. It is normal for corruption to happen as a public official if you can get the presidency to write a letter clearing you ahead of time. And it's consistent. It's not just the other part. You remember the Charles BCU matter. You remember the Charles BCU matter. Even before they could complete, the president said he was very confident. Anytime, at a point, people even started calling him the clearing agent.
But he says he is not the clearing agent.
He doesn't have to say,
because there are state institutions close to the power to investigate and clear these people.
So he should allow them to work.
But he has been allowing them.
Let me tell you.
When Anas did his number 12 video, he saw Kwesi Nyantechi in there. He referred the matter to the police CID.
Today, Kwesi Nyantechi has been cleared by the president party to contest an election in the party, when we have not been told about the status of the prosecution. So is it true, after all, that he indeed had the president in his pocket? See, Johnny, I like the word Helen used, conditioning. The people in power are investing so much money, and they are conditioning the people of Ghana that it is enough that corruption is going on. You know what they are doing? They are amassing so much wealth, and they are leaving the basic that will make our lives very well out, so that when it's election, they can pay for every slot and run advert. So everywhere you sit, in the church or in the market, you listen to the MPP advert. Now, on the grounds, they come and share money to you. In Asen North, it happened. They paid for hotels, even empty hotels where we were sleeping. They said government had paid for it. So we needed to move out. And we moved out to a different region so that we don't even get spaces to sleep and campaign. They are sharing money. They pay for airtime for every radio. Then they come and share for you. For them, it's never about you and I and the quality of life.
But Beatrice,
it's about winning the next election. Johnny, tell me one policy that this government has embarked on, which is actually calculated to making the lives of the people better.
Free SHS.
And I will show you.
Free SHS.
I will show you that it's an election game.
Free SHS.
Let me show you today. Basic education, which is the foundation of every education, for 4 years have not had textbooks. Schools under trees are more than 5,000. This government is not committed to eliminating them. You know why? The people between class 1 and JSS 3, 15 years, do not have a voting right.
Oh, that's not a fair assessment to make.
Johnny, so tell me why. That the basic foundation of education, when your predecessor eliminated over 2,000 schools under trees, increase the textbook ratio to 4 textbooks to 1 student instead of 4 students to 1 textbook. At least if you cannot do anything at all, maintain the status quo. You leave the challenges of the basic school. And now what? They are sharing tablets to students who do not have chairs to sit on, to students who do not have access to electricity to plug the tablet, because we are about to vote. Johnny, we must begin to have a different conversation about our country.
Talking about voting, I mean, if the way you have painted the picture and spoken about things, if that really is the reality on the ground, then nobody actually should be supporting the government. If the narrative you have given out is what...
And that is where it baffles my mind, because no well-meaning Ghanaian should support the MPP and this government. Look at Kennedy Japan.
But there are people who see something good about the government.
Because they are direct beneficiaries of the corruption. Look at Kennedy Japan. Kennedy Japan was the second person to be a potential flag bearer. He says his own people are stealing as if there is no tomorrow. He says that his own people are engaged in the levels of corruption that he hasn't seen before. He is one of the beneficiaries of this government. He himself says that he has so many contracts because people go for the contract, they cannot perform, and they bring it to him. And this is a man who is even going to lead. And he says that he was on a house cleaning exercise because this is not the MPP. Look at Alan Tremantin. A founding member of the MPP says that I can no longer stay with this stinking act. They are tired. People are frustrated. And they speak to us. Sometimes you even go on air with some of their communicators. They say, as for this one, I don't want to talk about it. All is not well with our nation. Our nation is at a crossroad that we all have a duty, irrespective of your tribe, your gender, irrespective of where you come from and your status in society, to make sure that political parties are not emboldened to dissipate the resources. The NDC will never engage in this.
Okay.
But even if the NDC were to engage in it, some of us will stand against it, because you remember the Deputy Minister of Finance, when he had the attack and was driving from Ejuso to Accra.
Right.
Why can't we have a proper hospital even in Sawam? When the president's convoy was engaged in accident, they had to stabilize them at Suhum and bring them to UGMC. If President Mahama had engaged in this shenanigan of getting money, keeping it for election, President Mahama was the man that he had an election before him and kept $250 million in the stabilization fund. Another $250 million in the sinking fund. Created the Exim Bank, the Ghana infrastructure. He could have just lumped all that money to win an election.
Okay. My guest in studio is Beatrice Annan. She's a member of the NDC.
It is a very serious
legal
time.
and communications
Johnny,
team.
you should be worried. Ellen should be worried.
Well, you are recruiting us, but we will.
No, it's not about NDC MPP.
Listen to
Just
this one.
Speak up.
Drink water. Listen to this one.
My fellow Ghanaians, please, let us just be mindful and show some respect to our citizens. So the lives are not stable. And because somebody has not told us that it is doom so, it means there is no doom so. So the Electoral Commission is struggling to defend its credibility. And until the Commission tells us that the missing equipment mean nothing, everyone should believe that there are no issues to worry about. How did disrespect get so high? Actions that impoverish and disenfranchise do not necessarily translate into feeble-mindedness in people who are angry, in people who are hungry, and in people who are oppressed. On the contrary, again, check the details in our history.
Sunrise on 3FM. Shine with us.
15 minutes after 9 on 3FM 92.7. My name is Johnny Hughes. This is Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Beatrice Annan is my guest. She's a private legal practitioner. She's also a member of the NDC's legal and communications team. Let's talk about the Electoral Commission quickly. You've been monitoring the registration exercise currently ongoing. Have you been satisfied as a political party with the goings and doings of the Electoral Commission?
I think that more than ever, the EC is showing that it's just an XB of the MPP. The EC is engaged in transpositional rigging. You know, in the 2020 elections, we can still not tell what is the final figure of the political parties because they kept changing. And in this registration...
The results have not been gazetted.
Oh, Johnny, you see, that's what I'm talking about. We are not in a good place in our country. We've seen Afarijan's Electoral Commission. Both political parties will have issues. They go to IPAC, they solve it. Charlotte Osei, we've seen her as an electoral commissioner. They go to IPAC, they solve it. After IPAC meeting, political parties will come out and say that we are satisfied because...
The MPP pushed Charlotte Osei out. They
Yes, but she did everything they wanted for them. They wanted biometric what she did it, whatever it is that would make them go, and that is why they even won the 2016 election because Charlotte Osei was not interested in rigging. What we have are a group of people who behave like MPP foot soldiers, like branch executives.
This is Jimensa of the IEA.
Yes.
This is Bosman Asare of the University of Ghana.
She behaves like an
Mr.
MPP
Tete
branch
of the Electoral
executive.
Commission. I mean,
No, she behaves like an MPP
Sribo
branch.
Kwaku, PhD holder.
And
these
I
are
want
people
to-
who have experience.
Which experience?
Who have been there, seen it done, and
Have
made
you ever
recommendations.
seen that until J Mensa, the EC was making errors? Did you ever hear that? We only started. I mean, you could have your wildest guess about what the EC can do, but you could never foresee this. Let me show you. Since the registration started, the EC started bloating the figures. Started swapping some of the days so that the total figure for registration would change. Quickly, you realize that consistently, our director of election, Dr. Mane Boama, keeps coming back at the EC. It tells you that 2016 is not 2024. 2020 is not 2024.
Right.
So the NDC is matching the EC with data. We collate our data so much in time, even ahead of the EC. So we just wait for them. So you realize that sometimes we take them on in less than 5 minutes, then they delete their release on their social media handles.
But the MPP apparatchiks say you couldn't even present a correct pink sheet in court to defend your case.
See, that is why I'm telling you that 2024 is not 2020. In a synod.
You say the present is not the past.
Let me show the
past is not the present.
So in a synod, MPP agents, their national organizer, Nana Boache, Nana B, They all left the collation center before 8 p.m.
Why?
That is the question. So the mechanisms we have in place, and the EC knows it. In recent time, they've seen how we've matched them boots for boots. Before 8 p.m., all the national officers of the MPP left the collation center.
And I'm asking why?
Because they could not undertake the machinations. We have told you that as a political party, we do not believe the integrity and the independence of the EC. We are treating the EC as an arm and a department of the MPP.
No, that's not fair.
But what should be
fair? We have only one electoral commission, and we must protect it to the best of our ability.
The Electoral Commission looks like an organization that is interested in the stability. Johnny, did you not hear Bossman Asari say that the NDC is a danger to our democracy?
No, he said that, but he's been reprimanded for that.
Who reprimanded him?
Well, the public have told him to not to say that.
And what would that reprimand be? That the public spoke up and he's still as post and he's still speaking loosely and he doesn't have a little bit of emotional intelligence when he's dealing with the public. We have told you that we have classified the EC as an arm of the MPP. The NDC is going into the election with all the vigilance, like how they attempted rigging in Asin North, and we just gave them a tip of the iceberg of our preparation in Asin North. We just gave them a tip of the iceberg.
What is going to be your relationship with the Electoral Commission going forward as we wrap up?
We are going to have a normal relationship with the Electoral Commission. It is not going to be a stretcher. We don't trust the Electoral Commission to be independent. We don't trust them to even have the accuracy of their data intact. And so the NDC is going to rely on its own data. And we'll be calling them out on every wrong. But what I want to say in wrapping up is that we as Ghanaians have a duty to protect our nation. Some time ago, when the colonial masters wanted to take over, we realized that as Ghanaians, we needed to have our independence to determine for ourselves what we wanted.
Okay.
And so even at a point, Kwame Nkrumah said that the last stage of neo-colonialism is imperialism also.
Right.
Today, we are seeing a level of colonization that even the whites did not do. There is a document called the Japadier. Even who to be the director of SNIT, for SNIT properties to be sold to a minister, was documented as far back as 2017. Who to be the director of EcoBank was documented. Who to be appointed the Minister of Finance, which banks should be collapsed, for which reason today our monies cannot be found, what should be done with borrowing, and who should benefit from the borrowing, how a group of people should be impoverished for other people to be empowered was documented. There are a group of people on the mission to destroying Ghana. These people, some of them are even acquiring dual citizenship.
Really?
There are people in government today who have started acquiring dual citizenship. Some people have even gone to acquire citizenship in other countries. And now it has become a haven for where they keep their monies. Johnny, it is very scary. It's not everything you can say on air because they know that the path on which they are traveling, it will get to a point that they cannot stay in Ghana. But you and I, we cannot even get a passport because today many people cannot afford to pay almost 500 cedis for a passport, which will take them 6 months anyway to get if they don't pay bribes. And so you can't even go to Cote d'Ivoire and Togo. At best, you can stay there for 90 days. And so we have a duty to come together and make sure that the MPP does not get an additional 4 years, making it 12 years. You know what? It would empower them not to just sell SNIT, but to sell all other state assets. You saw what they did with PDS. You saw what they did with the Japa. How else should we say it?
On December 7, when Ghanaians queued to vote, it will be between John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The NPP says the alternative is scary. The NDC says you have performed woefully and that you have to go. Dr. Bawumia, I heard him about 2 or so days ago saying that as for your flag bearer, he has come to power before. He has come to experience it. He has not come before. So he deserves the opportunity because he will have the benefit of 2 terms, or he will be eligible for 2 terms. Your candidate is only coming to serve 1 term. And if he comes to mess things up, he will say bye-bye and go. What do you say? What's your response in closing?
You see, I think that in any serious jurisdiction, the man, Dr. Bawumia, will first of all not put himself up for an election.
Why?
Because he himself will be guided by conscience and the love for his nation. Especially having regard to some of the loose and unguarded statements he made. He spoke as if a poor man who wants to woo a rich woman just say anything to give an impression. And so for me, I don't treat Dr. Bawumia with a seriousness that a presidential candidate should be treated. But because he's a leader of one of the main political parties in Ghana, he would have a base. And so he's allowed to say anything. Dr. Bawumia, over the years, have shown that he has no iota of integrity. His principles don't matter to him. It matters not what one says. You know, we were talking about Pualugu. I've done it, I've not done it. When the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Then he says that, when the exchange rate is exposing you, it doesn't mean the fundamental
knowledge, if you think that way.
Yes, it doesn't mean the exchange rate. He tells you that we will build concrete roads. But now, if we can't build concrete roads, we should be happy. He tells you that in 100 days, there will be no household in Ghana that has a toilet or water problem. Today, they haven't added 1 gallon to the 77 million gallon President Mahama left behind. He tells you that, forget about all that. You see, forget about your hardship. And let's reduce the election to what Dr. Bawumia, want.
Because he was not in charge, so he says. And the president has come to say, look,
he was not in charge.
The buck stops with me.
But he instructed the Ministry of Finance to pay money to the trainee allowance when to the trainee nurses when one trainee embarrassed him. All of a sudden, he found the charge. We shouldn't even be having this discussion. I mean, when you're having discussions about Dr. Bawumia, it's like you're belittling your intelligence. Because it appears, is there anything wrong with me talking about this man? I don't know how their communicators are doing it, but I think that they are forcing.
Are you getting a fair... Yes.
But what I want to say is that on December 7th, 2024,
right,
Ghanaians are presented with 2 choices between a man who knows how to build hospitals, a man who knows how to add generation capacity to the national generation mix, a man who knows how to create employment and is further promising to bring a 3-shift system so many people can have access to work, a man who knows how to build monumental projects like the port expansion, like the Terminal 3, a man who extended electricity to more than 2,000 communities, a man who with little resources invested in very strategic sectors of the economy, and a man who is never responsible, a man who does not have integrity. Obviously, I am confident that the people of Ghana are yearning for the comeback of President John Mahama. He has said it time and time and again that if you had access to electricity, to water, to a good business, today, Guta people who are MPP are saying...
Guta is not MPP. Guta is a mix of
majority
MPP and
of them are MPP. When President Mahama met them, you know what they said?
No.
Traders have missed you because they have traded under both governments. We are in a period of our country where we need a man who knows how to rebuild our nation.
How well are Ghanaians waiting for John Mahama in terms of electoral percentages? Let's say we vote on 7th, 8th, 9th, Electoral Commission comes to declare. What margin is John Mahama going to win by?
We the EIU, Fitch, Global Info Analytics, and all others are predicting within a range of 54 to 55%. But I don't think Dr. Bawumia deserves to get more than 30%. Because we need to send a signal to every politician.
Okay.
That you cannot do this and have us vote for you. It is that bad. It is that scary. And you and I have a duty to vote the MPP out. Otherwise, they will be so empowered to even auction the entire country and go and live somewhere else.
Kukrudu.
I don't know the response.
Really? You don't know the response
No.
to Kukrudu? You do.
They don't have a party anthem, and maybe you should play my party anthem
Say
for me.
Kukrudu.
What does it mean?
I don't know. Beatrice, thank you very much indeed. We are grateful for your time this morning. Beatrice Annan is a member of the NDC's Legal and Communications team, and she joined us to talk about the roadmap for 2024 according to the NDC, OSP, fighting corruption, economic issues, and all the issues in between. We're going into womenpreneur right now. And what are we cooking? And nothing.
Okay.